All right, so I'm going to give people a chance to log in, but I wanted to go live because I do have some new photos to share of the area that Faye Swetlik was recovered, and I wanted to discuss those. So hoping that you all are able to see my screen. I'm going to give people, like I said, a chance to log on here. If I'm not mistaken, I believe the memorial for Faye is today also. Very, very sad for both families, really. All right, so for those of you who are going to play this back later, this here is a picture rather, of the wooded area where Faye Swetlik was recovered. Now, if you remember, the officers and investigators said that Faye's body had been placed in the wooded area behind Coty Taylor's home, which was less than 150 feet away from where Faye lived. When they say wooded area, I'm picturing, terrain. I'm picturing actual woods. I'm certainly not picturing this, which is really just some trees. This here that you're looking at behind the trees is the back of the Napa building. But this is the so-called wooded area where Faye's body was found. I've got questions about that because her body was found at 10:30 in the morning. And if you look here, I mean, it's not an area where it would be hard to see what was going on, right? This is not an area where someone could go out and hide in, hide in trees and dig a shallow grave without being seen. That is not what this picture is a picture of to me. Anyway, so that definitely raises some questions. Here is a larger photo. And again, this is the wooded area that they're saying that where Faye's body was found. Let me get rid of that here. That is there we go, that's better. So again, like I said, this is the backyard where Faye's body was recovered. This is the wooded area, and that is the back of the Napa building behind the townhomes. This does not look like a place someone could easily go and hide a body without being seen. And it raises more questions than it does answers for me. Anyway, the other thing that was kind of, I thought of this, also was when you're talking about somebody who, if Cody were the sole perpetrator or a perpetrator at all, you're talking about someone who was successful in abducting a child in broad daylight without being seen, was successful in hiding her body in his home for 3 days, in a home that was searched by law enforcement, and was so successful at what he did to hide her that law enforcement had no reason to believe that he was involved in her abduction at all. And they said there was no indication when they searched the home or when they spoke with Cody that he was involved in any way. That same person allegedly was successful in moving her body from either the home or wherever they had her into these quote unquote woods without being seen, right? So as a criminal, I would imagine a criminal would be thinking that at this point they had gotten away with quite a bit and that they were outsmarting the police and that they would continue to get away with whatever they were doing moving forward, right? Well, so then let me ask you this. If somebody who is so skilled in abducting a girl, hiding her body, moving her body, when he's in an area where there are over 300 law enforcement and firemen and everything else, he can do that, but he was stupid enough to put her boot in his trash can? I don't understand that. That doesn't make any sense to me at all. The other thing is that officers had searched his home, right? And when they searched his home, there was no sign of Faye. The dogs didn't pick up any scent at all, right? Yet somehow he was able to hide her in his home and move her body less than 50 feet away in here without anybody seeing a thing. It just doesn't make sense. Amber says maybe Faye had been visiting Cody regularly, saying she was going to elderly neighbors' houses. Now that's interesting. I hadn't thought about that, but that's a really, really good thought. And who's to say if she was visiting Cody or if she was visiting Cody's roommate? He did have a roommate. The roommate is the one who actually found him deceased on the back porch, which is like in my previous video, I had said, you know, nobody finds Faye. And then within 30 minutes of the roommate deciding he's going to come home for the first time in 4 days, her body is found, Cody is deceased, and a boot and ladle are found in the garbage. It just doesn't sit right with a lot of people, right? But that is interesting. When you mentioned that she had said she was going to an elderly neighbor's home, we don't know if that's actually true, and we don't know if she was always going to an elderly neighbor's home. She may have done that sometimes, and maybe at other times she was going over next door, right? That's a good point. Very interesting thought on that, Amber. Thank you for contributing that. And Jojo, you're right. Nothing adds up. Nothing adds up at all. It makes absolutely no sense at all. 0 sense. Let's take a look here. Let's see. Got some other photos that are interesting. Oh, that's the wrong one. I'm going to pull up another photo. This may be a little bit more graphic than some of you would like, so I'm just going to give you a little bit of a heads up there on that because I don't want anybody to have an unexpected thing that they weren't, planning on seeing. This is right here. This is, let's see. There we go. That's what I'm trying to do. This here is an image of the back porch where Cody was found with his alleged suicide attempt. There's still very sad, but there's still blood there on the back porch. You would think that they would have cleaned that up by now, but interesting point is that based on what you're looking at here in this video and the picture, rather, the person who took this picture had a very good point, and he said that this had to have been an extremely deep cut because there are clots in the blood, which you can see in this picture. And like I said previously, to be able to do something like that requires a great amount of physical strength and an incredible amount of wherewithal to do something like that to your own self. So I wanted to show that picture as well. Let's see, Amber, people keep saying, why would he murder the first time. Maybe he'd been grooming her for a while. I haven't heard anyone think of that. One of the articles that I read from law enforcement was that they stated that he did not fit the profile of somebody who would typically snap and do something like this. And he had no criminal record, which I'm sure you know. And I just don't get the feeling that he is the person responsible for Faye's murder. I just in my gut don't feel like that's the case. Probably because, like I said, you've got somebody who for 3 days can hide a girl, abduct a girl, move a girl, not have anybody have any clue whatsoever that he might be actually involved in the abduction of this girl, because he's that clever, right? But stupid enough to move her body 50 feet away from his own home and put her rain boot and a ladle in his own trash can. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. It just doesn't make any sense at all. You do have me curious now, though, about whether or not she was going to visit an elderly neighbor. That is a really, really good question, and I wish I could speak to the neighbor, but nobody has said who that person is that I'm aware of. Do you, Amber? Do you know who that alleged neighbor is, the elderly neighbor? If you do, please let me know. This is a shot of where all of the garbage is collected outside of Cody's townhomes. So as you can see, there's quite a few of them. And the individual who took this photo did tell me that the garbage cans do not have the unit numbers on them. So when they did go through the trash and they found that rain boot and ladle, there was, unless they went through the trash and found mail or something like that with his or the roommate's name on it, the only way that they had to put that together, that the rain boot and Cody, was because literally right after the roommate found Cody on the back porch with a suicide, it was literally at the same time that they were pulling these things out of the garbage, which the timing to me, I get it. I understand that there are coincidences, but come on, really? It just doesn't sit right with me. No worries, Amber. I'm going to say if anybody else happens to know who the elderly neighbor is that Faye would go and visit with, please post it in the chat. Let's see, Jojo, the police said they checked cupboards, etc. They thoroughly searched his house. So where was Faye then? I just don't, I don't get it either. And you're talking about a guy who had a moped, right? He didn't even have a car. So how in the world would he have abducted Faye, hid her body in his house, or taken her somewhere else without a car to hide her somewhere else, right? Then keep in mind that here's the other thing I was thinking. So the dogs did not pick up a scent. They didn't pick up a scent from anywhere after her front yard, right? So there was no scent in the home. For her to have been there, they would have picked up a scent. I'm certain of that, because that's what these dogs are trained to do. So that being said, let's assume, for argument's sake, that Faye was not in the home, in Cody's home, and she was at a different location, right? Why in the world would he take her from a different location and place her 50 feet away from his house? It doesn't make any sense. If she was already not in the home and not in the area, you wouldn't bring her back into the area and put her 50 feet away from your back door. That's insane. That makes no sense at all. Let's see. Francis, I don't think she was abducted. Safe neighborhood. She's 6 years old. She was wandering around the neighborhood. She went to him. So, Francis, I don't know if you're from that area or not. If you are, maybe you can answer a question. But I had read somewhere that Faye told someone on the bus, one of the kids on the bus, that she was going to see her dad that afternoon. I know her biological father lives in another state, and from what I understand, she hadn't seen him in a long time. And there has been rumor that her mother used to date Zach, who is Cody's ex-roommate. I don't know if that's true or not. If anybody else knows whether or not that's true, I would really appreciate, confirmation on that. The reason that I ask is because if that is true, maybe she used to refer to mom's ex-boyfriend as dad, right? And so if she was planning on seeing him that day, then she would have thought nothing of him pulling up and her getting in the car, right? So I was curious about that too. But again, I don't know if that was true or not, or if it was just rumors. I can't say. So if anybody else knows, please let me know. The other thing too, it's like, if you had gotten away with abducting a girl in broad daylight, hiding her body, being questioned by police, having them investigate and go through your home, find nothing, put her body outside and not get caught doing that, why in the world would you suddenly just panic and slit your throat? Why? Wouldn't you think that a criminal who had gotten away with that much up to that point would automatically assume that they could get away with more, right? I would think that a criminal would think that way. And that's why there are criminals, because they all think they're above the law. They all think they're never going to get caught. And if you had gotten away with that much already, I would imagine you would think that you were smarter than the police on some level. So to just, okay, I'm just going to, you know what? I got away with all this. Let me just put her body outside and cut my throat. It just doesn't add up to me. It makes no sense. Now, I have spoken with Cody's brother on Facebook, and super nice guy. And I asked him, I said, did you know that the girl next door was missing? And, were you aware of that? Or did you only find out when Cody was found? And what he said was that he lives out of the country, from what I understand, for work. But Cody was very close to his mother, and Cody had called his mother after the police were there and told her, he was upset that there was a girl in the neighborhood that had gone missing, and that police had just left and they had talked to him, but that he was disturbed by it. So, I'm curious, did they check Cody's phone records to see who he called or to see who he texted? And did they call those people to ask what that conversation was? It just seems like they found Faye, and then, here's this guy who killed himself. Let's close the case. It seems as though they haven't considered any other possibilities at all. And I don't understand how they can do that. If you have a situation where you have a deceased guy on his back porch with a throat slit, right? You have that. You have a little girl's body 50 feet away in an area that you and 300 other people have been searching for 3 days and didn't find anything. At the same house that dogs were at and didn't pick up anything. And you can't answer the question of where he would have had her for those 3 days, then your investigation is not over, right? Until you can answer every single question about where she was, who had her, how she was transferred, every detail. If you can't answer every single one of those questions, then your investigation is not over. I don't get it. See here. You're right. Nothing adds up. They had canine and they never hit on anything around Cody's home or inside. Yeah, nothing. And that was the other thing too. They had said they found DNA from Cody's home on Faye. Okay. From Cody's home is very open-ended. What exactly is it that they found? Did they find hair? What did they find? Because let's put it this way, O.J. Simpson walked free, right? And we know that DNA can get crossed up. So let's just say, for argument's sake, that the roommate was involved, right? Not saying he is, I'm just throwing it out there. Let's say he was involved. You don't think for a second that he could get some sort of DNA from his own apartment and put it on Faye before he placed her in the woods? Of course he could, right? Now, they have not said whether or not Faye had been sexually assaulted. I pray to God that she was not. However, I would imagine that if she was, just to put the public at ease and to give them confidence that there was no longer a threat in the area, that they would have confirmed that and stated that that was the DNA evidence that was linked to Cody and Faye. But they didn't say that. And as much as they're saying it's for the, out of respect for the family, I think it's because their DNA evidence is half-ass. That's what I really think. If it's not half-assed, fine, then tell us, what did you find, right? Let's see. Do you think maybe lazy police work? Well, obviously, I mean, if it's not lazy, it's incompetent. And I know that that sounds terrible. And these people are, you know, they're in a very difficult job. I could probably never do their job. I mean, I can talk about these things, but if I were there in person, that would be a lot for me. But that being said, you know, this is your job. You need to be trained adequately to handle it. And it seems like they dropped the ball in numerous places. I'll give you another example. The neighborhood was on lockdown at 10 a.m. Thursday morning, pardon me. 10 a.m. Thursday morning, the neighborhood is on lockdown. Nobody can get in, nobody can get out. Yet at 10:30, Cody's roommate came home for the first time in days and found Cody with his neck slit on the back porch. So if everything was on lockdown, how did the roommate get into the neighborhood? Because from what they said, they weren't letting anybody in. So how do you explain that? Right? So at the very least, someone dropped the ball because it's on lockdown and people are still getting in, right? And you know, the timeline of that really bothers me too, because 10 a.m., everything's locked down. 10:30, they find the boot, the ladle, Faye, and Cody within a half hour of locking down the neighborhood. I am almost certain, although I can't say for sure, that they were in the neighborhood before 10 o'clock because, actually, no, I am certain, because law enforcement stated themselves that they had 24/7 people on site searching. So if you're there 24/7, let me go back to this other picture here, okay? Hold on one second. Let me go back to this. If you're there 24/7, whoops. Okay, there we go. If you're there 24/7 and it's light outside because it's 10 o'clock in the morning, this is not a brush-filled area, okay? This is like a couple of trees that are not in bloom right now. You mean to tell me you have 24/7 people out and they can't see a body here or something? They had stated that they had video of Cody acting suspicious and trying to hide, you know, evidence and what have you. So if that were true, come on, don't you think that they would have been following his every move, every single move? I know that I'm not even an officer, and if I had evidence that somebody was doing that, you think for a second I wouldn't be following that person nonstop? Of course I would. Doesn't make any sense. Makes no sense at all. So you've got that. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. I'm at a loss over this. I really, really am. Zoom back into that again so you can see. Give me just a second, guys. My little son is home. Hold on. Oh, God. You want to do something else? Okay. then we'll come back. Okay.
You want to go?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, sorry about that. I am coming back here. Give me just a second. Hopefully I didn't lose you guys. Let's see. Headphones back on. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. I am back. If you're still with me, do me a favor and just drop a note on Messenger so I know that I haven't lost my viewers here. But my son was at the door with his dad, and they just went to go bowling now, so I'm back. Anyhow, so again, like I said, nothing about this makes any kind of sense at all. How are you going to have people out there 24/7 and not be able to see somebody hiding a body in this? It doesn't add up. And they said she had not been out there very long. So we know that, what does the sun come up right now? Around like what, 7? So that's 3 hours. I mean, what time were they thinking she was actually placed there? I don't know. In any event, nothing is adding up. People have called in additional tips to the tip line, and they are actually being turned away and told that they have the right person and basically to forget about it and let it go. That's disturbing. Like I said, until you can answer every question and fill every hole in about this investigation, then I'm sorry, but you do not have a closed case. You just don't. And for the people that live in the area that have children, they deserve to know that due diligence was done and that their kids are safe in that neighborhood. They really, really do. So this raised a few questions here. So one, I want to find out who is the elderly neighbor that Faye would often go and visit with, and have they spoken out? That's one question. The other question is whether or not it is rumor or fact that Faye's mother used to date Cody's ex-roommate, Zach. That's the other question that we have. So if you know the answers, do me a favor, comment on the video. I will update the video as I get more information or more photos to share with everybody. But thank you for watching and letting me share my thoughts. And I look forward to hearing your thoughts as well. Talk to you guys later.